Welcome to On the Issues. I'm your host, Nicholas Balsi, and today we're sitting down with Matt Glowacki before his lecture here at Rider University. Matt has started a college tour to talk about diversity in shows like South Park and Family Guy.
In the lecture that I'm doing this evening, I'm doing diversity according to Family Guy in South Park. And so the point of that is to actually try and create people a different way, or try and create in people a different way to watch television. Usually television watching is a very passive experience. People sit there at the remote and they go, oh yeah, man, it's kind of funny, and it's just one way of transmittal of information. But really, shows like Family Guy and South Park are meant to be interpreted and then thought about afterwards. And so today, what I'm going to be doing is teaching people how to really interpret what they're seeing, take an active role in understanding, and maybe be motivated to do something after they see the programs.
So does this relate to people who sometimes find the content in shows like that offensive?
Yes and no. I do have many people that come to my shows and go, I hate these programs. I can't believe you think there's any moral values in here at all. It's rather funny to me because what that means is either they're not smart enough to watch them with a critical eye or they're not actually watching them. And 99% of the time they've never seen the show. All they've heard is bad things from other people, and so they just choose to take other people's opinions rather than developing their own.
So a show like South Park, what kind of positive things are involved with a show like that as far as morals?
It really depends on the episode. They attack a lot of political ideals. They go after a lot of moral stances, a lot of diversity issues. It really depends on the thing. Usually every South Park show actually has two interwoven plot lines, and at the end all the kids realize that what all the adults think should be the reality really isn't the reality. And there's actually something called the South Park Republican, because if you track the morals and the values of the show, they do lean a little bit more conservative than liberal. And so people who follow those, but usually they try and follow the morally right path. And so, not to say that the Republicans are morally right any more than the liberals are, but they call themselves South Park Republicans.
Is there an episode in your mind that you could think of that you use as an example during your lecture to kind of pick apart? Depending
on how people are reacting to the show, I have up to 4 clips of each show, Family Guy and South Park. And so, yes, there's all sorts of wonderful ones. My favorite one is called Crazy Cripples, and it's where Jimmy and Timmy, I heard someone laugh, that's nice. It's the one where they start a club called the Crips, but they don't know that there's actually an existing club called the Crips, and so what they're trying to do is join that club and convince people that you have to be born a Crip, not that you can become a Crip, and it basically reveals the issues that surround the hierarchy inside a minority group. The echelon, if you will, the fact that even within a group there's people who want to claim that they're better than other people, and it's a really great episode. I think it's the second one I'm going to use tonight. We'll see. So
do you think even though some younger children will be watching those, even though they're watching shows like that, they're still getting some positive things out of it? Or
I've read some things about education, and it's my understanding that you have to be over 14 years old to actually understand the concept of satire and parody, and those are the 2 forms of humor that the shows really implement. And so if the kids are basically younger than that age, when they see it, they're probably not understanding that they're being funny, but they're being funny in a satirical way. They're not actually meaning the things that they're saying, and so kids will go home and say those things, and then people go, wow, that's wildly inappropriate. Where'd you hear that, South Park? And they'll go, well, of course, the shows are terrible. But really, they're not geared for children. Children shouldn't be watching. I would have a hard time doing this program in front of high school students even. I mean, I'm not saying that they don't get it, but a lot of times the blue humor in their mind is going to be way more prevalent and impressive than the real morals that are in the shows.
So do you think even with the youth group that you're trying to target with these lectures, there are some things in there that could be taken literally and affect behavior?
There are some wildly inappropriate things. There's one clip that I'm going to show tonight, and the line, I can't even say it on your show. It has to come from a cartoon character, otherwise I would get in trouble like Don Imus would. And so, but it's fun.
It's funny you mentioned Don Imus, because I was going to see what you thought about that whole issue, because it sort of does relate to what you're coming to speak about. And I've heard so many different things. I actually got in a debate today with somebody about it. I guess my main question would be, with what happened, what do you think is the most offensive part of what he said?
That he's so ignorant and he doesn't realize that in a position that he's in, people are listening, and he is unfortunately an opinion maker, and there are people that go, yeah. It's actually, what happened was he revealed something called whisper prejudice, and the problem is he spoke it out loud on a radio show, so it's out there for everybody in the ether to hear and understand. And if you, depending on who you listen to, and I guess he has a bit of a track record for saying things like this, but not usually in public. And so he got a little too lackadaisical, he got a little too comfortable with the situation, and he acted probably like he normally acts. But of course, after the Michael Richards incident and some of the things that Bill Maher said, I mean, you can track the list all the way back to Mel Gibson and earlier. Those are just the three that come to mind right away. People should realize that what they say words mean things. And especially when you're a celebrity, people look to you and they expect you to hold a certain, I don't want to say moral code, but at least know when to shut the heck up. And he got caught, and eventually people get theirs. People can't be good all the time. And he revealed himself today, or a couple of days ago.
And one of the arguments that I've heard actually for him and what happened is that what he said can be heard on rap albums. What he said can be heard so many other areas in the media. What do you think makes what he did different than picking up a rap album and hearing derogatory statements?
Context. I mean, when Nelly says things like that, or Ice Cube or Nas or any of the, whoever you want to put there using those lyrics, they're coming from a perspective where that's kind of what you expect from them, because that's how they make their money. Don Imus doesn't make his money being racially prejudiced, or he doesn't trade on that dime. And so I think context makes all the difference.
Now, just for the purpose of using the example, if he were to say, now I'm hearing so many different things about this situation and picking apart the statement, if he were to say nappy and he kind of left it at that, using that word, do you think it would have been not looked at as bad?
Wildly inappropriate.
Still wildly inappropriate.
Of course. I mean, he's a cowboy. His whole image, his whole thing that he trades on is to be, kind of rough and tumble and all that. And I don't know if he uses those words in his private life, which people usually say the things they say every day. That's not a new word that he just pulled out for that experience. I'm sure that he revealed his true character.
Do you think he'll be fired?
I don't think he's going to be fired, because there's a lot of other people that have said a lot of inappropriate things too, and they're not. He's also way too big of a draw, too much of a cash cow. I mean, what do they say, that there's no such thing as bad publicity? I mean, more people are going to be listening to his show right now than ever. I think if he does get fired, we won't know him for a year or a year and a half. It'll be like a Dan Rather thing, where they couldn't fire him right after he came up with those documents, but less than a year later he was gone. So maybe that's the thing. I hear he's been in the business for 30 years or something like that. So I don't know if he's old enough to retire yet, but I'm sure he wouldn't go out on a note like this, but he'll probably be gone in the next few years.
And since we did bring up music, maybe a little bit on that subject, do you feel that even people at the age of college students will be listening to rap albums or different songs and could actually carry out an act that is talked to in a song? Can it affect the behavior of children and youth? In your mind? I know there's different theories about it.
There's a million different theories. I think legally it's been proven no, people aren't held accountable for what's been in like Ozzy Osbourne lyrics and all those kinds of things. I don't think it's culpable, but I think it plays a part. I mean, at some point, I don't know if you've ever had the experience, but I can be at home and I'll watch a marathon of Real World or something like that, and I'll have my judgment skewed a little bit for a while. I'll walk out and I'll see, way more sexuality, and my perception will be different. It's like when you watch a movie like Schindler's List, you'll have some residue from that for the next few hours, something like that. And if you're constantly being reinforced, it's gonna play on you. But would I say that one person doing one bad thing was because of one song? No, certainly not. But it's a culture of acceptance and morals and stuff that are in the shows.
Should the line be drawn somewhere? Should obscene lyrics or obscene content in video games be protected by the First Amendment? Or?
I'm the guy that says the best argument against hate speech is more speech. I just want people to do more thinking and that's the problem. People have really slowed down on the amount of thinking for themselves. It's all about how they feel about stuff, and really it needs to be what they think about stuff. And in order to come up with an opinion, you actually have to do some research and put some effort in. And again, you know, we're very, very content to be warm and fed and cuddly, you know, and it takes a little bit more effort to be educated, and so.
So should these music artists and creators of these video games be able to process and create and sell stuff that promotes things like that? You're just saying it's a different way it's interpreted. People shouldn't.
They should understand what they're doing. And I mean, I'm certainly not going, we shouldn't say that you can't produce an album or you can't produce a video game, but I would hope that people would go, well, I'm not going to choose to vote with my dollar that to be something that's successful.
And since you've personally been, from what I know, talking to you right now, looking at these shows with a critical eye, has anything personally offended you in any of these shows that
No, because I understand what they're trying to do.
Okay.
I don't want to say I'm smart enough to get it, but I'm smart enough to get it. And so, you know, if one of the little boys says the N-word or something like that, I'm not going to sit there and go, oh my goodness, I'm going to go out and use the N-word myself. I mean, they're doing it to prove a point. It's satire, parody, you know.
And what made you decide to actually put together this college tour and do the things that you do?
Well, I always like to have different things to talk about, and I was, you know, watching a number of these programs, and I had the conversations with people, and they'd go, "Oh, those are terrible shows." And I'm like, "No, you just don't know." And then after enough of those, you go, "You know, I bet I could talk to people about this, and people would be interested," and so they are.
All right. So overall, basically, your message is that there are some negative things in these programs, obviously, but there's more to it than what people think, because they kind of shut these shows off because of the
it's
bit
satire,
of negative
it's
things.
comedy. I mean, if you and I went somewhere and I picked on you because you're a person who walks, and you and I had a relationship and you knew that disability wasn't an issue for me, but I made fun of you, that's in context. And these programs are in context too. I mean, you can't take a 5-second clip of South Park and go, look at the morals that they're saying, or look how bad they're being right there, because you need to view it in, you know, in its entirety.
All right.
Okay?
Thanks a lot.
No problem. Thanks for the time. I appreciate it too.
Thanks a lot.
All right.